This is Gemara and Yevamos, Daf Lamed Zayin. All the learning should bring an incredible shidduch for Yisrael Chaim and Dvar Shira. Shlomo ben Libi Zava, Oivik ben Teli, Shimon ben Chaya Bluma, Yehudas vas Asima Malka, Tamatzibur bas Perel Rachel. They shall find the shidduchagim Bikara, as well as the schutz for Shlema Shmuel Yisman, your faith Shmuel ben Tila, Navtalitzib Mechles and Nachama bas Riva, Sarah Bluma bas Amindol Chaimushi Yeshua ben Malka, Besoy Basheva Vega Bashira Chano, Besoy Shar Chayle Yisrael, and we pick it up in the bottom of Lamid Vav Amid Beis. We're holding approximately 10 lines from the bottom. It says the Gemara, Amar Lei Rav Yeshua. Amar Le Rav Ashi Le Rav Hoshia. Says Rav Ashi to Rav Hoshia as the Gemara begins a new sugya. Parade Ravidi to Rav Hoshia the son of Ravidi. Hasam Tanan. It says as following in a brayso. Rav Shimon Gamliel Leimer says Rav Shimon ben Gamliel Kol Sheshav Adam Lamid Yom Einoy Nefel. If a baby lives for 30 days, Baruch Hashem, the child is not an Evel. If the child subsequently Rahman al-Islam is nifter, has the status of a full-fledged child that was nifter. If it did not live for 30 days, says Rav Shimon Gamliel, it's a suffix if that child is considered a viable child. That is the opinion of Rav Shimon Gamliel, and this is a brayso where a brayso in Gemara and Shabbos Daf Kuf Lamed Hey. The Gemara by us does not quote the opinion of the Rabbanan, but as we'll see, there is an opinion of the Rabbanan that hold that even if the baby does not live for 30 days, this child has the status of a baby, even a full-fledged child, even without living for 30 days. But that's Rav Shimon Gamliel. Says the Gemara of Itmar, and we learned on that brayso. Let's say the child dies within 30 days. Va'amda, and the mother of this child, v'niskadsha. Va'amda v'niskadsha. And the mother did Kiddushin. Meaning, the mother assumed that she had a child. Therefore, there is no yibum, there is no chalitza. And what did she do? She went and she got up and she married herself to another man. She did not do chalitza. She did not do yibum, of course, and she assumed she had a child. There's no yibum, there's no chalitza, and she went and she married someone. So what is the status right now? So again, the fact that the baby died within 30 days, what does that mean? That means, according to Shimon Gamliel, for sure, it's not a status of a child. Therefore, she needed yibum and chalitza. She didn't. She went and she married elsewhere. Ravina Mishmei Rav Amar, Imeshis Yisraeli. If she married a Yisrael, then chayletzes. Then the original brothers do chalitza. Why Ishis Yisrael? Because then she's allowed to stay married to him. Then Meishes Kayini says Ravina. She's allowed to stay married. She does not do chalitza. That is the opinion of Ravina in the name of Rava. Rav Mesharsha Mishmeidu Rava argues, and he says, Amar achazu v'achazu chaletzes. They both need chalitza, whether the husband is a kohen, whether the husband is not a kohen. Regardless, she needs chalitza, and of course, then she would not be allowed to stay with the kohen. That is the machlekes Ravina Rav Mesharsha. What do we do right now with this woman that went and married elsewhere? She accepted Kiddushin, but her baby then died, thereby showing us that she did not have a child. She was required to do Yibam and Chalitza. So Amarle Ravina, the Ravina, who says that we only require to do something for Ishis Yisrael, but not for Ishis Kain, says Rav Mesharshia, Ba'urta Amar Avachi. At the evening, that's what Rava said. Rava said, like you should have to do chalitza even if she married a kohen, which would thereby forbid her from staying with the kohen. However, he continues and says, but besafra in the morning, Hadarbe. Rava was chayzer, and Rava said no. If the husband is a kohen, she needs nothing. Amar lei, Rav Mesharsha responds, Sharitu. What are you telling me? You're telling me they allowed her to stay married without any chalitza? Yeirava ditishru av tarba. It should be the will that you can even make that which is asur, forbidden fats, tarba. You're going to make that mutter as well. Basically, Rav Mesharsha responding, how could you do such a thing? How could you tell me she stays married without any chalitza if she did not have a child? The baby died within 30 days. It does not have a status of a child. Says the Gemara, now we take this discussion we just had with Ravina Ramesharshia, and we take that and we bring it back home. Says the Gemara, yesterday we discussed a muberes chaveiro minekes chaveiro, a woman who is either pregnant or a woman that is nursing whose husband either divorced her or died. We said she has to wait, she cannot get remarried, it's a sakana for the child, and therefore if she did, we said yesterday she has to get divorced and wait, either till the baby is 24 months old or at least until she's not pregnant in each case. So says the Gemara, what if she's married to a kain? We're seeing in this machlekes Ravina Ramesharsha that perhaps there's a bit more of a dispensation to a kain, because once you get divorced, you're not going to be allowed to remarry that kain. So says the Gemara, what about in this case? Is it going to be the same din, mi avid rabbana takanta to the kain, or not? Do we make a special takana for the kain? If you look at Rashi in the first narrow line, Rashi explains what we just said, that if he divorces her, he's not going to remarry her. Taski bafrasha ba'alma. So the shaila of the Gemara is, could we say that maybe a special leniency if she's married to kain, don't get divorced, just wait until the requisite time period passes. So Amar Lei, so it continues the Gemara, the Rav Hoshi responds to Rav Ashi, Hachi Ashta, what's your comparison? Like we explained in the Gemara in Shabbos Daf Kuf Lamed Hey, the Rabbanan argue on Rav Shimon Gamliel, and the Rabbanan say that even if the baby dies in 30 days, still it's enough to pater her from even chalitza. The Amri, the Rabbanan hold, Afal Gad L'Shav Lan Ma'al Yohavei. Even though the baby didn't live, it's called of a lot of fundamental machlaikas. What paters from even chalitza? The Rav Shimon Gamliel says no, it's a regular din of a child. The baby has to live for 30 days. If the baby doesn't, it's a nefil, it's nothing. Says the Rabbanan, they argued over there in Kuf Lamed and Shabbos Kuf Lamed Vav. The Rabbanan argued and they said no. The Rabbanan argued once the baby is born, that's enough. The baby died after 2 weeks, it still bothers her from Yibam and Chalitza. So says Rav Hoshia, over there I understand that we make a leniency for the kain because there was a baby. Even though it died, the sheet of the Rabbanan is to be makel, so we could be makel like the Rabbanan to help out the kain. However, Gabi Isha's kain, therefore, we have no choice. Avdin and Rabbanan, we're going to go with this chiddush of the Rabbanan, now like Rav Shimon Gamliel, and will allow them to stay married, and not require chalitza. But in our case, Kama Nevad. In our case, there's no opinion to be makel, like in this case that they married the woman that was pregnant, the woman with a baby, and you want to say, but her husband's a kayin. If you divorce her, they can't get remarried. But who are you saimechan? Ikara Meir, Hamar Yaitziv Le'achzor Lamis. What are your options? Our mayor says divorce and never get remarried. Ikara Abonan Amri Beget. The Rabbanan said you have to get divorced. So what's your shaila, says Rav Hoshia? Here in our case, there's nothing we could do. And it concludes the Gemara, Itmar, excuse me, so before we go further, that's really the end of the Gemara. So the Gemara is saying that when it comes to a Mubarak Chaveira, Minekes Chaveira, if this woman got married to a Kayin within the time that she was pregnant, within the time she was nursing her child, we feel bad, but there's nothing we could do. Machlekes are Meir and the Rabbanan, whether she has to get divorced forever, whether she could get remarried, but of course it's a Kayin, there's nothing we could do, and there's no shita to be saimechan. Says the Gemara, concluding this section, let's say one did kedushin, not nisuin, the first stage, betrothal, they did kedushin, and then what happened? Within the 3 months, he did not wait the requisite time period, and then barach, and then he ran away. So of course, there's not going to be nisuin here. So there's no real issue because we're not going to have an issue wondering who the baby is from because they were never really together. So no, you did the wrong thing. Chazal said you got to wait 3 months and you didn't. Boom, we put you into chayrim. There's nothing that you could do. The fact that he ran away, that's enough. He ran away. We know they're not going to consummate the marriage until the requisite time. No problem. Haviyovda says the Gemara that the running away suffices. So that is concerns of marrying a woman after she was married to a previous husband. Continues the Gemara, the next stage of the Mishnah. They went and they got married. They did not wait. And now that she has the baby, and now we have the Shaila, is the baby Safik ben Teisha l'Rishon, ben Shisha l'Sheva l'Sheni. We have a shayla right now. Is the baby that is born right now, is it from the second husband and it's a preterm, a 7-month-old baby? Or is it from the first husband and it's a 9-month-old baby? And obviously there's tremendous ramifications. If it's from the first husband, what does that mean? That means, was she allowed to get married to this man? The answer is yes, because she did not need him in chalitza, because she had a child and everything is fine. If the baby is from the second husband, what does that mean? That means she really required yibum and chalitza, and therefore we have a serious issue. Let's just point out one very simple point over here, is that first of all, with regard to the child, the Mishnah taught us that regardless, the child's going to be kosher, because whether the child came from the first husband or the second husband, it doesn't make a difference. We spoke out. Why does it not make a difference? It does not make a difference basically because, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get my bearings over here. It does not make a difference because it does not make a difference. Right. That's where I spoke out wrong. Now let's fix what we just said. I'm sure people were upset. I'm sorry. Let's fix what we just said. She went and she married the Yavam. That was the case of the Mishnah. The case of the Mishnah was she married the Yavam. And the problem is we do not know if she was pregnant from the first husband. If she was pregnant from the first husband, now what does that mean? That means she's not allowed to marry the Yavam. That means it's an Isser Kares of Eishes Ach, because she had a baby. Yibum is only when there's no child. So if this child is from the first husband, then her living with the Yavam is Be'isser, and Isser Kares. But what's the child? The child's kosher, it's from the first husband. If the child's from the second husband, then what? Then great. Then she did Yibum, everything is fine. And what's the child? The child's from the second husband. So regardless, the child's going to be kosher. The problem is, what about her? She didn't have Avera. And therefore, she has to bring a carbon. And the Mishnah says that what is the halacha? The halacha is chayavim be'asham talui. That's what the Mishnah said. She has to bring a carbon b'safik. We're not sure, was she over an aveira or not? Did she live with this man? Was it an Isser Kares or not? And therefore the child is kosher, but she brings a carbon asham talui. So says the Gemara, Amli Rav Rav Nachman, why are you saying that she brings an asham talui? It's a safek. Lema halachacha Roiv Nashim. Why don't we go with Roiv? The Roiv Nashim Letisha Yaldan. The Roiv dictates that what? This baby is from the first husband. If the baby is from the first husband, is she allowed to be with the Yavam? No. And therefore what? She was over an Isser Kares Bivadai. And therefore she should have to bring a carbon chatas. Why are you telling me that it's a safek? Asked the Gemara. No. She was over a Vadai Isser Kares Bishayik. And therefore she should have to bring a carbon Vadai. Amar Le, he responds, Nashi Didan, the Shiva Yaldan. No, our women sometimes give birth after 7 months. Amar Le, he responds, Shkayach, Nashi did Halma. That's not the Roiv. The Roiv is still 9-month babies. Amar Le, no, this is what I meant. You're right, that Roiv Nashi Yaldan Letisha, but Umiot, Le Shiva, there's a Miot. And therefore, V'chola Yoledes Letisha, usually what? Obra Nikar. If you have a full 9-month baby, says the Gemara, you could tell that the woman is pregnant. Lish Yamel in the third of the pregnancy after 3 months. Vizu, and this woman, when she married the Yavam, was it recognizable she was pregnant? Obviously not. Since it was not recognizable, Israel Ruba, this is a reisa. It tampers with the Roiv, because if she was a quote-unquote normal woman, if she was a lady that gives birth after 9 months, it would have been recognizable. The fact that it wasn't, that tampers, that gives you a reisa, that shows you that maybe she's not part of the Roiv. And that's the reason why we could say that maybe she's part of the miyat of the 7th month birth-bearing ladies. Says the Gemara, very nice, but go back to your words. You said kol hayoledes. Every single woman that gives birth after 9 months is recognizable after 3 months. Ask the Gemara, kol hayoledes the tisha versus nikar l'shishemel. If it's a kol, if every woman is nikar by the 3rd month, then when it's not recognizable, it's not just a reyes al shishemel, if you're telling me that every single woman is recognizable 3 months in and this one isn't, then it's a vadai that what? It was a 7th month baby. Says the Gemara, Elaima, you're right, you have to switch the words a little bit. Generally, the majority of women you can recognize after 3 months. And this lady, and that is the reason why we have the din in the Mishnah, and that's the reason why she brings an asham taloi, because we're not sure what her status is. Continues the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanan. Let's continue the story. So first we had, is she allowed to get married to this man? Then we had, what happens if she didn't? She had a child. What is the status of that child? So the child is kosher. She brings a carbon. Continues the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanan. What if she now continues living to this Yavam? What happens the second child that is born? So the second child is certainly not from the first husband, but is the second child a kosher or yid? Is she really allowed to stay married to this man because the first child was from whom? Herself. Of course from herself, from the second husband, and therefore there was no Isra at all, and therefore she can stay married and the second child is kosher as well? Or do we say no, the first child is from the first husband? Now, is she allowed to stay married to this man? Of course not. It's an Isra Kares. Why? Because you're not allowed to do Yibum if there are children. It's called an Isra Ishazach. You're living with your husband's brother. Therefore what? Therefore the child's a mamzer. So Tanu Rabbanan, and the first child, we just said the first child's kosher. He could even be a kohen gadol. Incredible how the Gemara brings out its point. It's 100% kosher. V'sheni mamzer misafik. Says the Gemara, but if the second child that she gives birth to is a safik mamzer, we don't know. Is this marriage allowed to continue? Then it's kosher. Or no, is this marriage not allowed to continue? It's an Isser Kares every time they're together. And therefore the child is a Safik Mamzer. Rav Laz ben Yaakov Aimer ein Mamzer misafik. He is not a Mamzer misafik. So says the Gemara, what exactly does Rav Laz ben Yaakov mean? It is a Mamzer misafik. My Kamar, what does he mean? Amar Abaye says Abaye Hachi Kamar. Rish and Ra'aliyas Kain Gadol. Great. V'sheni Safik Mamzer. The Asur b'mamzeres. The Tanakama holds that the first child is great. The second child, we're not sure his status, but we're so not sure, he's also not allowed to be with a mamzer. The halach is when a child is born as a mamzer, if a child is born from an Isser Kares, he's Asur Lava L'Kal Yisrael, but he's allowed to be married to a like-white person, to another mamzer. Says the Tanakama, this kid is so messed up. He's a Safik mamzer, unfortunately, and he's Asur even to mamzeres. Rav Eliezer Aimer, no, ain't Safik mamzer, Levadai mamzer. Says Rav Eliezer, no. He's for sure a mamzer. Now, of course, he's not for sure a mamzer, it's a Safik. Rashi points out it's like he's a Vadei Mamzer to the extent that what says Rav Laz ben Yaakov, he says Rav Lezer Umuter b'Mamzeres. So Abaye learns that the machlekes here is what is the status of the second child? Tanakam holds he cannot marry a Mamzeres, and the Rav Lezer holds he could. That's Abaye. Rav Amar Hachi Kamar Rishayin Ra'aliyas Kain Gadol. Great. Sheni mamzer vada, the exact opposite, says Rava. Sheni mamzer vada misafik umot mamzeres. Rav Laz ben Yaakov Aimer ein vada mamzer misafik el safik mamzer and also mamzeres. So machlekes Abaye and Rava, what exactly is the shita of Rav Eliezer, whether the child is allowed to marry mamzeres or not? Rava says, according to not just Rav Eliezer, I should say, whether you're allowed to marry mamzeres. Rava says, according to Tanakama, you're allowed to marry a mamzeres. Abaye says, according to Tanakama, you are not. Abaye says, according to Rav Eliezer, you are, and Rava says, according to Rav Eliezer, you are not. Explains the Gemara, become iflikli but Rav Eliezer and the Abid Rav Eliezer, and they're arguing in the din of Rav Eliezer. So we have machlekes Abaye and Rava. What is the machlekes Tanakama and Rav Eliezer ben Yaakov? Let's get that clear. It's a little confusing. Rav Eliezer ben Yaakov, and says the Gemara, they're arguing within the opinion of Rav Elazar. Says the Gemara, who's a Tana, the Tanai we learned in the Mishnah. Rav Elazar Omer, Vadan bevadan muter, Vadan besveikan, besveikan bevadan, besveikan besveikan aser. Says Rav Elazar ben Yaakov, when it comes to marriages of people with potentially Yisurim, a Vada Yisur can marry a Vada Yisur. A Safek Yisur cannot marry a Safek. A Vada cannot marry a Safek, and a Safek can marry a Safek. That's the Shita of Rav Elazar. And he explains, Ve'elu ein Sakin, what is a Safek? Shtuki, Asufi, Kusi, one who doesn't know who his child are, one is that we gathered him from the street, one is a Kusi. That is the Shita of Rav Elazar. Amar Rav Yehuda, and says Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav Elazar, we basking like Rav Elazar. And can read the Shmuel, when they said this din in front of Shmuel, Amar Lei Hillel Shanu. So they said this din of Ram in front of Shmuel, he said, Hillel Shanu, you know what Hillel learned? Asara Yochsan al mi Bavel. There were 10 types of genealogy that went up from Bavel, Bisman Ezra, Kahani, Levi, Yisraeli, Chalole, Geri, Haruri, Mamzeri, Nisini, Shtuki, Asufi, 10 different types of people, and says Hillel! They can all marry each other. So you, Rav, just told me, Rav Yudam Rav said Allah that only a Vadi can marry a Vadai, but we see that Hillel says no, says Shmuel. Shmuel says to Rav, you're telling me we pass like Rav Elazar, but we have the statement of Hillel that says no, they can each marry each other. So that is the Brisa, the Mishnah, of Rav Elazar. So Abaya and Rav are arguing within this. Abaya Savala Kishmuel, and of course Rav is going to like Rav. So Abaya holds like Shmuel. Again, Shmuel was the second opinion that said the Svikas could marry each other. Tamar Lacha Kehillel, Umukila Rav Elazar ben Yaakov Aliva Delchasa. And we want Rav Elazar ben Yaakov, as the Gemara will explain when we turn over the Amid in a moment. We learn Rav Elazar ben Yaakov, he was Mishnah Kav Vinaki, he was pure, he was pristine, he always said over the right thing, you remembered perfectly. So we want what he is to say to be halacha lemaisa. So says the Gemara, Abayo's like Shmuel, and therefore we go with Hillel, and therefore he wants Rav Elazar ben Yaakov to be like Hillel halacha, and therefore and that's the reason why Abaya is saying like Shmuel, and that is the reason why Abaya is learning that what is the halacha like Hillel, that the Sveikas are going to be moder. In the Shita Rav Elazar ben Yaakov, Rav Elazar Kerav, Tamar Lochi Rav Elazar, Umukil Rav ben Yaakov, Aliva Delchasa. And again, he wants Rav Elazar ben Yaakov to be la halacha, but he's going within the Shita of Rav, which means that what? It's only a Vadai motor. Keito takes halacha halacha, so you don't asks halacha on halacha, and that is the machlekes Abaya and Rav. And if you see the top Rashi, we just pointed out, the Kaim Mishnah Rav Elazar Kav Vinaki. So that's machlekes Abaya and Rav. How to learn up the machlekes Tanakama and Rav Elazar ben Yaakov, whether they're going within the sheet of Rav Elazar, according to Shmuel, or according to Rav. Amar Abaye Mina, where do I know this from? The Chosfek of Elazar ben Yaakov kivadei mashvla. Where do I know that any Safek according to Rav Elazar ben Yaakov is like a Vadei? And therefore, two different Sveikas, children who's a Safek, the Safek moms who can marry each other. The Tanya Rav Elazar ben Yaakov marry Shabal and Nashim Harbe. If someone was with many women and he does not know which ones, v'chein he, and similarly she, Shabal Nashim Harbe, she was with many men, many Yodei means men Kabbalah, and she doesn't know which one she was with. Nimsa Av noises bitavag noises a chaisai. You know what could happen? It could come out that no one knows who's each other's parent, and a father can marry a brother, and a father can marry a daughter, and a brother can marry a sister. And the entire world be filled with mamzerim, and that is the reason why. That was the concern of Elazar ben Yaakov. That was a bayo. No, this is what it means. Zu mahi. You know what the word zima means? What is this? That is what Rava learned, that once there's a suffix, once there's a possibility of mamzeros, we have to be concerned with that. And that's the machlekes between Abaye and Rava. What are we going to do with the second child born from this union? Again, a woman that does not wait the requisite amount of time, and therefore we're not sure the first child, whether it comes from the first husband or the second husband. What do we do now with the second child? It's a suffix mamzer. Is he allowed to be married to another mamzer or not? Yes. Yasser al-Kain, more than this, Amar Rav Elazar ben Yaakov, the Gemara continues this discussion. Lo yisa adam isha b'medina zu v'yisa isha b'medina acheres. A person should not marry a woman in this country, in this place, and go marry a woman in another place. Why? Shemi yizdavgu zela zevnim za'ach noisiach es achaisa. Because you know what happened? The child that's born in New York might go and not know that this woman had another child out in Arkansas. And what's going to eventually happen? The children's sibling are going to marry each other. So says Rav Elazar ben Yaakov, we should be concerned about that. Ask the Gemara, Eini, are we really concerned? V'Rav kikla d'reishar. When Rav came to a place called Reisha Machris, he got up and he announced, V'amar man haveli yoma. Who wants to be my wife for one day? V'Rav Nachman, and similarly, when he came to a place called Chshinitza Machris, he would get up and announce, V'amar man haveli yoma. Who wants to be my wife for one day? So says the Gemara, we see clearly that these great Jews, that Rav and Rav Nachman would have a wife back home, and they'd have a wife over here, and you just told me we shouldn't have different wives in different places. Explains the Gemara, Shiny Rabbana, the Pekisha Maya, Rav Nachman. Everyone would remember that they are their children, because the Rabbana, they have a call, everyone knows who they are. Ask the Gemara further, how are they able to do this? Like Subisagya, Tavuli Nasib Nispaises relations in the Kiyim. The halacha is from the time that you ask a woman in marriage, you have to wait at least 7 days for her to make sure that she is clean, the Shiva Nikiyim, and only then could she get married. This was actually a big discussion. Some of the Corona weddings, they had to switch around the dates. You could come to serious issues because you have to wait 7 days from the time when you know you're going to get married. So how does Rav and Rav Nachman show up to town and say, hey, I'm ready to get married right now? Explains the Gemara multiple terutzim. Teretz number 1, Rabbanan shlu chayav meshadri. The Rabbanan, Rav and Rav Nachman would send their messengers before them, umudilu, and they would tell them that they're coming. So the woman would know that they're eventually going to marry or potentially marry Rav or Rav Nachman, and therefore they would wait to Zayin Nikim. Viva Yisema, second teretz, the Rabbanan yichudi ba'amud me'achdilu. Rav and Rav Nachman didn't really sleep with these women. They weren't really married to them. They just had yichud with them. Why? It's the Einoi Daimeh. If someone knows they could potentially have a woman, then one who does not, and this was their Shemira from Avera. Of course, it's a little bit difficult to understand because the Gemara seems to be saying that they wouldn't wait Zayin Nikim, so what's the Pas B'Salai? They're not really married. Maybe it's Pas B'Salai that if they would want to, a few days they would be mutter, but that's a larger discussion, not for now. Tana, we learned in the Mishnah of Lazman Yaakov, Adam Ishta v'Yadaita Garsha, person should never marry a woman and have in mind to divorce. There's just another statement of Elazar ben Yaakov. A woman should never marry a woman and have in mind to divorce her. So the pasuk says, do not devise an evil plan while she's dwelling with you. If you marry her, of course, the mindset is to stay married. And now we begin a new sugya. We don't have that much time left. But this is the follow-up sugya, that any time that we have one of these cases in which we're not sure what the status of this marriage is, of this ibam is, of this child is, and we don't know, is it ben Teisha l'Risha and ben Sheva l'Sheni, what happens in the next stage of life? What happens with regard to inheritance? Whose father do we assume? So we dealt with the fact that the kid is a kosher kid. We dealt with the fact that the mother has to bring a carbon hasham talui. We dealt with the fact that the second kid, it might be a mamzer, and that's a new discussion. But now going back to that first child who we're not sure, is he born from husband number 1 after 9 months, husband number 2 after 7 months? What is his status with regard to Yerusha, with regard to inheritance? So says the Gemara, 2 lines from the white line, Safik v'yavam shabal lachle v'nichse misna. We're going to have many cases. Today we'll learn a few, and tomorrow we'll pick up. So we have the Safik. Safik refers to the child. This child that was born, we're not sure, is he a ben Tisha, 9 months from the first husband, or 7 months from the second husband? So the Safek comes together with the Yavam, the brother of the deceased, and they come, and they want to divide the properties of the deceased. One, the Yavam is saying, I get the inheritance, it's my brother. And the child saying, no, it's my father. I'm a ben Teisha. I was a full-term baby, and that was really my father. Safek Amar, the Safek says, the child, Anabar Misnahu, I am the son of the deceased, I was a 9-month baby, and it's my properties. And if he gets it, he's the first inheritor, because he's a child, and he gets the whole thing, and the brother gets nothing. But Yavam Amar, no, you're my child. You're a 7th-month child. You're from Miyat. And therefore, you get nothing, because you're my child. And what happens? I get the whole estate, and nothing goes to you at all. Says the Gemara, have a mammon amuta b'safek, a mammon amuta b'safek, cholkin. The halacha is, in every case you have mammon amuta b'safek, what do? Yach loiku. We split up the money, we split it up, it really comes out that it's to be 1/3 and 2/3, but let's leave it at that for now. Case number 2, Safek u'bnei Yavam shabolach lo b'nechsei misna. Now we have the Safek, this child, and we have the bnei Yavam, we have the children of the Yavam. They're fighting. So Safek Amar again, who kaver bar misno. The Safek says what? The Safek says that I am the child of the deceased brother. And therefore he is my father, and therefore the estate is mine. You're our brother, and therefore you have part of it with us. So what is the story? Is this child really, again, a Ben Teishel Rishon? If he was a Ben Teishel Rishon, he would then inherit the brother in place of his father? Or is he a Ben Sheva L'Sheni, and then he's just another brother? He's another brother with these brothers, and therefore they split it. What do we say over here? So they thought it's the following Mishnah. We're going to learn this Mishnah, and then we'll call it a day. Apologies that half the video disappeared. So it's a Mishnah, the Tanan. What does the Mishnah say? The Mishnah discusses, a Mishnah we'll get to in a few months in Daf Kof. The Mishnah discusses the very similar case, a woman that was divorced, or a woman that her husband died, and then she remarried right away and she has another child. And again, that child is a Safek Ben Teishel Rishon Ben Sheva L'Sheni. And again, what do we do with that child? So over there we learned, this child does not inherit them, but the other brothers, the brothers from the new marriage, from the second husband, Yarshim Isai, they will inherit him, because he is not a vadai, whereas they are a vadai. V'hachan, in our case, ibcha. In our case, when we have a Safek and the Yavam children, it's exact opposite. Hasam Amrilei. What's the exact opposite? There in the Mishnah, what do they say to him? They tell him, I see Raya v'shakol. Bring a Raya that you get something and then you'll take. But Hacha, in our case, Amar Lo, what happens? He says to them, I see Raya Ushkulu. He says to them, bring a Raya that you are my brother, and then you'll take. So the Gemara thinks our case is very similar to that case, that we have 2 tainas of Vadai, and therefore they'll be able to take. And Amr Rami Sharshia, no, midami. Hasam inu Vadai v'yu Safek. Over there it's different. Hacha idi v'idi Safek. Over here they're the same level of Safek. Alidami l'masnisan lahadami. It's the following Mishnah. L'Safek u'bnei Yavam shbalach l'minechsei Yavam. Gufe, they're arguing over the Yavam's properties. The Hasamar Mleisi Raya Dachunuat. There we say, bring a Raya that you are a brother, Vishakol, and you'll be able to take. And that's the end of the case. Tomorrow, Mirz Hashem, we'll pick it up from the Safek and the Bnei Yavam, which is really a 4th case. And as well, we'll show some nice pictures of Daf Achayim, which hopefully should clarify these last 2 cases. B'siyata Dishmayo.